Hey, you guys, it's Natalia Shelton, and I am the founder of Destined Initiatives, which is an inspirational lifestyle brand for women who are called to leadership and legacy. I am so excited to be here within the group Make Us One, whose founder is Nicole. And Nicole, I just want to let you know that I appreciate this opportunity to share from my heart to your group on your platform, Make Us One. And I have a very thoughtful and insightful topic that I want to share today. And so I hope you guys think the same. And I just want to dive right on in. So basically, I want to talk about the power of putting a name on it. And when I say it, I mean anything that is worthy of having a name to it. And this is all within the context of something that I share on often in Destined Initiatives. As we pursue our God-given destiny, God calls us to godly success. And in order to experience that godly success, God calls us to walk into our God-given potential. Okay? And so I know that was a mouthful, but I just want to kind of put that out there because that's the focus of Destined Initiatives, and that's also a focal point in this discussion that we're going to have today. Okay, so let's just repeat it. God has a destiny for each and every one of us, a God-given destiny. And in order to walk into that destiny, we are called to godly success, all right? And I like to clarify that and say well-rounded godly success. So that means that we are walking in success when it comes to intimacy and consistency in our relationship with God. We're walking in success when it comes to the power and practice of self-awareness. We're operating in high self-awareness. We're building healthy, holistic habits. God calls us to be successful in our relationships. He's actually calling us to thrive in our relationships, okay? The other thing, God calls us to be successful in our finances. He calls us to be wise stewards of our finances. And then the last thing is God calls us to be successful as we build at home, in ministry, career, and entrepreneurship. And so what I call all five of those areas is the 5 destined initiatives, okay? Those are basically the promises of God in a nutshell. And so when we talk about reaching our God-given potential and experiencing godly success and walking into our destiny and fulfilling our God-given purpose, we are talking about just what we're here for. God created us to worship Him. And in worshiping Him, He calls us to know how to overcome anything that gets in our way, right? But the first thing that we have to do, the first thing that we need to do in order to overcome, all right? First thing that we need to do to overcome is to put a name on it. What is it that is getting in our way? How do we describe the challenges that we face? What things are out there to intimidate us? What are some of the strongholds that we battle with internally, or some of the strongholds that we battle with as we engage in our relationships? What are some of the external factors happening around us? All of these sorts of things, whether internally or externally, has a specific name. And the power of putting a name on it is exactly what we are going to discuss on today. So I hope that makes sense so far. I hope I haven't lost anyone. But I think it is a very, very powerful concept that I want to share with you because I found power in it for myself. All right, so let's dive in. One thing that I've noticed in my personal journey is how often I would face a situation, whether it was like an internal thing that I was going through or whether it was like external things that I was battling with. I will often find myself spinning my wheels, trying to understand, like, what am I up against? Why do I find myself going in these repetitive cycles with the way that I think or the way that I respond to different things, or even in terms of like dealing with people? Why do I always hit that wall with that person, or when I would go to different places, and find myself uncomfortable or feeling oppressed? I will always, be spinning my wheels trying to figure out, why can't we move from where we are? What is blocking us? What is hindering me? What is in the way of us breaking through and going to the next phase or the next level of progression or growth? And what I realized as I, had those cycles of spinning my wheels with stuff was that I was in a place where I needed to identify what it was that I was up against, okay? And so when you think about trying to get to a specific destination and having different obstacles in the way, it helps to be able to identify those obstacles and be able to put a name on it. Because when you can identify what it is and put the name on it, then you have a key identifier that's going to help you move forward from that point. I know that it seems impossible sometimes to like really, really become who God created us to be because of all of the many challenges that we face, because of all of the obstacles and the hindrances, the issues that we harbor in our hearts and in our minds and in our souls, the issues that we face when we deal with in our relationships, or the troubles that we have in our finances or in our homes, or the difficulty that we face as we operate in ministry, the opposition that we face when we try to do a good thing. Like, I understand that, sometimes it just seems downright impossible to really become everything that God created us to be. But I think that discussions like this kind of put things into context. It's like, one, I want to be everything that God created me to be. I want to ultimately be able to meet him and for him to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. I want to grow and blossom into the person that God created me to be and to do everything that he created me to do. All right. But of course, things get in the way. But there's so much power when we learn how to practice putting a name on the issues, right? All right. And so as we learn how to identify things, as we walk in the power of discernment, we learn also how to use the Word of God as our weapon against those things. And the Word of God is filled with that powerful substance that is not carnal but strong and mighty to the pulling down of strongholds. And so, in this journey of going towards what God has called for us, we learn how to use the word to rightfully put things where they belong, which anything that is presenting itself against us to separate us from the love of God and from the promises and presence of God, anything that's springing up to try to separate us, we know that it's already under God's feet, and we have to learn how to overcome it in our own lives. So do you see the power yet? Do you see the power yet of getting into the practice of learning how to identify things to the point to where you can put a name on it? And I realize that we do have to be very careful not to put things in the wrong box, okay? But language is so very powerful, and the concept of putting a name on it is so biblical because God has given each and every one of us a name. Everything around us has a name. So why not learn how to put a name on the different issues that you face, okay? And what another synonyms of names is a diagnosis or a term that's going to help you explore more of what that issue is, what causes it, and what is necessary to address it so that it's no longer a hindrance to you. So just to wrap everything up again, this is all within the goal of reaching our God-given destiny, okay? And walking into godly success, walking into the potential that God has created for us. And so as we do that, we want to be able to discern, okay? When we say put a name on it, what we're really saying is, God, give me the ability to discern the things that are in my way, the things that I have settled for years, the things that have slowed me down or even stopped me and discouraged me. Because God created us with so much potential. He created us to be warriors. He created us to be giant slayers. He created us to be more than conquerors, to overcome the world just as Jesus has overcome the world. And so the power in putting a name on it, the power in being able to discern the things that are in our way is spiritual maturity. It's being able to see black and white. This is good for me. This is not good for me. This is something that I need to deal with head on so that it's no longer hindering me from walking into the abundance of the life of Jesus Christ died for. Okay? And so I know it's kind of like an abstract discussion, but I'm trying to narrow it down and get it as specific as possible. And so let's revisit the 5 Destined Initiatives again. And these again are the promises of God in a nutshell. All right. 1, God calls us to be able to sit with Him and dine with Him and enjoy His presence right here on earth. So let's try to put a name on the things that will try to stop us from experiencing that heaven on earth and that bliss that comes from being able to walk with the Lord in the cool of the day. It's sin. It's idols oftentimes. An idol is a false god that we've imagined with our hearts. We've let our heart deceive us into worshiping an idol. And we have to learn how to call those idols out by name. God, I lifted up an idol of the ideal family, or I lifted up an idol of the ideal career. I lifted up idols of richness and popularity. You have to call those things out by name, right? The second initiative is God calls us to walk in a level of high awareness, understanding who God created us to be, what He created us to do, and understanding our impact in the world, where we stand, how do we measure up against who He created us to be and what He created us to do, right? And so we have to call those things out. I'm dealing with in indulgence that's affecting my level of confidence and affecting my self-esteem. I'm dealing with greed, and so I'm not. So when I interact with people, they don't feel love from me because I'm just a greedy, selfish, person. Self-awareness is about being able to identify, like, I'm a jealous person. I get jealous often, and so it's like put a name on the things that are causing us to not be who God created us to be. The third initiative is thriving in relationships. What are the things that are causing me to suffer in my relationships, that are causing people to scatter from me rather than being attracted to the love of God in me? Is it my prideful ways? Is it my selfish ways? Is it just lack of consideration for people, or I'm just too lazy to like be thoughtful and really love on people, and things are just all about me? It's important to identify those things. Or on the flip side, I keep hitting a wall with this person because they're dealing with issues X, Y, and Z. You put in a name on it. This person is dealing with these types of spirits, and so as you learn how to put names on things, it just helps you. It helps you to navigate through those challenges in a more effective way, right? And we'll talk about why it's so effective. But the fourth initiative is being a good steward over our resources, our finances, and just resources in general. What are the issues that I'm facing? Am I trying to like conjure up the appearance that I'm more wealthy than I really am, and so I spend all of my money, just buying glittery, sparkly things instead of making sacrifices and saving and learning how to be financially responsible and stable. It's like, what is it? Is it the pride of life? Is it the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, the pride of life that makes me squander all of my finances on things instead of me learning how to be like a generous person and trust God to make provision for me? Like, these are some of the things that hinder us. These are some of the things that hinder us from walking into our God-given potential and walking into godly success. All right. And then the fifth initiative is, prospering in our purpose when it comes to us building at home. What are some of the issues that we're facing at home? Are we engaging in mental abuse, verbal abuse, spiritual abuse, financial abuse, or are we a victim of those things? Are we dealing with issues at home that needs to be identified so that we can go to the right place to get help for those issues? It's just a lot of issues that get in the way. When it comes to issues that we face in ministry, are we dealing with Are we dealing with a spirit of religion or the spirit of Jezebel? Like, are we dealing with wicked spirits of, wolves in sheep's clothing? Are we dealing with oppressive principalities in the body of Christ? Like, we need to learn how to put a name on it. We need to learn how to walk in the spirit of discernment so that we are not depressed or oppressed, so that our family is not oppressed, and so that our ministry is not oppressed, right? When it comes to business, being successful in our career or in entrepreneurship, are we dealing with a spirit of poverty? Are we dealing with the scarcity mindset? Are we dealing with, imposter syndrome? All of these spirits of fear, coming and sprouting up in different forms and fashion. Let's learn how to put a name on it so that as we put the name on it, as we learn how to discern these things, we can share with other people in our community that may be facing the same issues, And so if you think about it, oftentimes we go to an expert when we are up against a wall in relationships or in finances or issues at home or in ministry, career, or entrepreneurship. We go to experts because they help us to identify what we're up against. They help us to they give us a diagnosis, and oftentimes we'll get a name that's like a name from a medical name for it, or a name from a psychology term, or a name from pop culture or something like that. But what I like to do as I discover, different things that I'm up against, I like to go back to the word to get the biblical term for it. And as I get those biblical terms for it, it's often spirits, it's often sin, it's often a spiritual issue. Anything that we face in the natural is preceded by a spiritual issue. And so when we talk about discernment, we're talking about learning how to understand what's impacting us in the spiritual realm so that we can accomplish what God is calling us to accomplish. So as you can see, that it's so powerful to get into the practice of trying to get to the root cause of things. A lot of times we deal with the effects, we deal with the symptoms, we deal with the manifestation of the spirit instead of the spirit itself, instead of the root sin issue itself. And so, just as a reminder, Jesus has overcome everything. He's overcome the entire world, and he has granted us this same privilege, this same opportunity. But as we do that, we have to learn that it's inevitable. Trouble is inevitable. Issues and challenges, mountains are inevitable. Breakdowns in relationships, it's inevitable. All of the things that will try to get in the way, the Red Seas, the Jordans, the mountains, they are inevitable. But our success is also inevitable as long as we learn how to cleave to the Lord and learn how to operate in the spirit of discernment and learn how to fight against those giants day by day from a spiritual mindset, rather than trying to attack spiritual issues with natural carnal weapons. And that's pretty much it. That's the bottom line. There is power in learning how to put a name on it, because as you put a name on it, you'll be able to tap into resources, whether biblical resources, whether resources from other people that have overcome similar issues, resources in our community. There's so many different resources that can help us, but it also helps to know what we're looking for, what is the name of the thing that we need a solution for. And so, just to kind of put this in like everyday terms, if you ever find yourself spinning your wheels trying to understand why you are going through repetitive negative cycles within yourself, or repetitive negative cycles in your relationships with other people, or repetitive negative cycles as you try to build a godly ambiance in your home, or build, the ministry that God is calling for you to build. Whatever it is that you're trying to build, if you can learn how to deal with those things in such a way to where you're not just spinning wheels for so long, but you have this practice of saying, okay, I'm going to write down, or I'm going to think of everything that I've experienced so I can put a name on it, so that I can address it head on. Then you are going to be on the right path, and you are going to win. All right, so that's the discussion in a nutshell. And as you can see, it's for people who are very, very ambitious, for just nailing things down as soon as possible, so that nothing stops you, nothing is causing you to be stagnant, so that you can experience the growth, the ability to thrive in a world of challenges, in a world of chaos and uncertainty. It's for that woman or that man that knows that they're here to build the legacy of Jesus Christ, and that you're determined not to let anything stop you. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed the topic. Once again, I want to thank Nicole of Make Us One for this opportunity to share with you. If you want to connect with me, you can connect with me either on Instagram at Natalia at Destined Initiatives, or you can connect at my website, www.destinedinitiatives.com. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.